other hand, when I see a line, a betting line, a point spread, if you will, of the Kings favored by 1.5 against the Houston Rockets, who are terrorizing the league right now and are half a game out of the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, that sends up, that piques my interest. Not because I'm going, hey, I'm betting the house on the Rockets. I'm not going to do that because that's, you know what? That's how these books make money.
Okay.
Is by people like me who have done this time and time again, even though I know not to. I will go, what? The Rockets are going to win by 50. What are we doing here? Give me the Rockets and the 1.5. I'll tease that down and I'll go Rocket. Give me the Rockets minus 10. Like what odds can I get on that? Right? That's what they want you to do. That's how they win your money.
So you're thinking people
sucker lines.
Sucker lines.
That's what this is, dude. There are people who are going to look and go, wait, the Kings? They've lost 7 of their last 9. The Rockets, they're cruising right now. What?
They've won 3 in a row, 5 of their last 6, 10 of their last 12.
They beat the Thunder in there. They're rolling.
The Clippers twice.
And they go, oh, the Kings minus 1. Oh, give me the Rockets plus 1.5. Bet the house.
Oof.
And that's how you lose your house. That's what they want you to do. They want you to take that Rocket plus 1.5. They dangle it out there for you. Don't do it. That's why I'm leaning Kings tonight, because of that betting line.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You're not saying this on the radio and then going the other direction?
No, because I can't do that.
Yeah, because
I'll put a Prize Picks entry in for sure. I'll put a Prize Picks lineup in, but you can't do, because it's not betting.
In California.
Yeah, it's not betting. It's daily fantasy.
Of course.
So you can, if you are listening in a place, because of course we are on YouTube and Twitch and on the free Odyssey app and online at ESPN1320.com. So we have listeners worldwide. If wagering is legal where you are, I would lean towards the Kings minus 1.5.
Huh. I mean, the Kings are 4-7 at home.
They do have 4 home wins.
I don't know what to say here, Kyle.
Dude, it's
I think you're reverse jinxing this thing.
No, I'm not. I really we'll get to the Kings losing aspect of this in a second, because I don't think they're going to win tonight. But on the other hand, when I see, because they don't make bad lines very often, sports books, and they make the lines to try and earn money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they make the lines to try and get 50% of wagers on both sides. But that to me is a sucker line. And that makes me feel a little bit better about the Kings tonight. I know that's silly. I know it's irrational. I know there are people who don't do sports betting who are like, what the hell is this guy talking about? But I promise you it's a thing.
I'm a person who at one time did do sports betting, and I'm looking at you like, what the hell are you talking about?
I probably won't. I kind of want to hit up one of my friends who is like a professional sports bettor. Like, that's what he does.
Yeah.
He has a group of people who have sources and insight, and they, like, you want to talk, when you hear about like these massive wagers that come in on these sports books, it's like groups like this.
Oh.
And he's part of one of those. I want to hit him up and ask, like, hey, is this weird? This is weird, right? Because it is. The Rockets, the Kings don't match up with the Rockets. We talk about the Kings, man, they need size, they need athleticism. That is just the Rockets. That's all they have is size and athleticism.
Well, that, and the Kings were 0-3 against them last year.
And got kind of mollywopped a couple times.
When they weren't a good team then.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get why this sounds insane. I get that there are people who are going, wait, I do betting. Give me the Rockets plus 1.5. I think they're going to win by 15.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take the one. Yeah, give me the extra point. I'm just saying. It's funky to me. Is that not funky that the Kings are favored tonight?
It's very strange.
If you had said, hey, what's the line on that? I'd have been like, yeah, Rockets minus 3.5. Rockets minus 4.
I would have said more like Rockets minus 6.
You got to factor in that they're at
home.
One. But yeah, so.
But you factor that they're 4-7 at home.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You factor that in. Like, you got me, man. I'm confused. I'm super confused.
Well. But here's where I'm at. Again, setting the betting thing aside, let's talk some Kings basketball. We also had an insane Monday Night Football game last night that we'll talk about, and some really rough injury news for the 49ers that we will get to as their nightmare season continues. But I'm deeply concerned about the Kings tonight. Putting the like I said, put the betting line aside.
Mm-hmm.
because this feels like a spot where they could lose by a bunch. And I cannot help but have in the back of my mind the 2014-15 season when Michael Malone was 11-13 after 24 games. And very clearly from anybody who followed the team even a little bit, this is the best coach they've had in, 10 years. And they got rid of him because he was 11-13. And if the Kings lose tonight, they fall to 9-13. And we already know that there was from the coaching staff to the front office and beyond displeasure with how the season ended last year. And I can't imagine that, given the falling short last year into a stretch of, what would it be, 3 consecutive losses and 8 of their last 10, to fall to 9-13. Meanwhile, the Rockets, who have now surpassed the Kings to me, and we'll talk about that coming up in a bit. I think the Rockets have passed the Kings. Oklahoma City has passed the Kings. The Warriors are playing really well. They're just down the road. They have managed to figure it out and get to whatever they are, 12-7 now, 12-8. I am deeply concerned that if the Kings lose this game tonight and lose by a lot, that we could see some knee-jerk reactions from the front office, ownership, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think we are I'm not positive that we're at the precipice of disaster, but I think we're very close to that. I've done this so many times, and, I've talked about this so many times. In my first 12 seasons covering the team, 9 head coaches. And, you get a feel for when things have gone south. I don't know that I'm all the way there right now. I thought yesterday going to practice, it was like a pretty light mood, and Mike Brown was funny and used me as a practice dummy to.
That was so funny.
Show how to set a screen. Of course, I didn't record any of it because my phone ran out of batteries after.
Oh no.
Yeah. I was just like
right.
a practice dummy.
We got good angles from everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I didn't have a phone.
Was it Sean Cunningham who had the really good angle? I think?
It's either that or it was Matt George had a good angle.
Oh, it might have been Matt.
Yeah. So look, I think that it was a light mood yesterday. I think we got really good content out of the players that we talked to. And I don't feel like this team is careening towards the Grand Canyon and, like Thelma and Louise in this thing. I feel like that there is a possibility for a turnaround here. I would just point that one of the more disturbing things is that if we looked at all of the stretches in this season and we looked at the last 7 games and thought you're going to play the Hawks, the Clippers, the Nets, OKC, the Timberwolves, the Trailblazers, and the Spurs, I think anyone who walked into the season believing that this Kings team was a playoff team and a 50-win team saw this as a 5-2 stretch at a minimum.
Bro, after their 15th game where they were they 8-7 after 15?
Yeah.
We looked at this stretch, man. Clippers, Nets, Thunder, Wolves, Blazers, Spurs. That's a chance to prove that you belong in that playoff conversation, to get a few games above 500.
Yeah.
And they've lost virtually all of them.
It's one of the most bizarre things that I've seen from this team. I've covered a lot of bad basketball here, and a lot of teams that just didn't have the talent to compete.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the organization and the structure to compete, and they were going to lose. They also had things like the lowest payroll in the NBA. All of these things that you keep thinking about, when you're covering a team, this thing is going to last, the good vibes can last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, hope springs eternal walking into a season. But by November, mid-November, this thing's done.
Yeah.
And you're just watching the thing unwind, right? That's not what I expected from this season at all. Even last season, I didn't expect the overall vibe and just sort of the lack of traction that they were able to gain. This season just feels so strange to look at the games that they've lost, to realize that they are exactly the same team they were last year at the start of the season, just a little worse.
Yeah, and that's I think why this is so worrying is this is not the 2014 Kings.
No.
right? This is a group that, man, you expected them to be a lot better. Not in, oh, fingers crossed that, I don't know. I know this is too far back, but like Ray McCallum works out. Like, it's not that.
Yeah.
It's like, this is good players. We've seen these be good NBA players now. Now they're dealing with some injury stuff, and I know that matters, but the start of this year, we talked about last year, they won 46 games, but did they really take a step back? Because it was only 2 fewer wins. Monk got hurt. Herter got hurt. They dropped a couple of games that they probably shouldn't have. Okay, but didn't take a huge step back. It was more like a lateral step. And then you go into this year, and the start of this year makes last year look like a step back.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's now continued going the wrong direction. And that's why I'm worried about this on a bigger picture scale.
Mm-hmm.
Because the start of this year justifies any consternation about the way last year went. And if you're now losing to the Rockets, who again were a team who was behind you last year, the Rockets didn't even
behind you.
Rockets didn't make a play-in.
Yeah.
And now they're fighting for the number 1 seed in the West, a West that everybody agrees is good.
Oh, and they're an offensive juggernaut
and a defensive juggernaut.
Yeah, they are a very, very well coached team.
Yes,
and they're very deep.
And that's why I go into tonight like, man, I am worried about overreaction because I can't get that. I thought it was gone based on how the first Beam team year went. Last year, not great, but you know what? Some stability. Didn't love how the Mike Brown contract thing went, but you know what? They extend him. Okay, stability, we're good. But then that thing in the back of my mind of being around the Kings and following the Kings since 2011 when I got into this market. That thing in the back of my mind that's there of like, oh, are they going to like horribly botch this?
Yeah.
Are they going to mess up a thing are they going to do the wrong thing trying to fix this thing? Because it's not perfect. I don't think anybody's going to look at the Kings this year and go, oh yeah, everything's great. It's imperfect, but I don't think they're that far away.
No,
I think they're going to make it. I'm worried that they're going to make some kind of change that is more akin to a team that's further away than the Kings are.
Yeah, I mean that's what you're worried about, like the irrevocable like move that like once it happens, it sets off a chain reaction.
Yes,
like I talked about this on D'Lo and Casey yesterday a little bit in the afternoon. Like firing a coach and bringing in an intern coach, it's never worked.
That for the most part means your season's over.
No, it does, but that's the problem. Most owners, when they make this move right now, they don't see it that way. They don't, even though the same owner that's here right now fired Michael Malone after that 10-13 start, right? And then brought in Ty Corbin, let Ty Corbin take over the team. Ty Corbin was the lead assistant, but he had just been hired during the offseason. Like Ty Corbin went 7-21. And then George Karl took over, and you had 3 coaches in 1 year, and that wasn't the answer. So, like, look, I think that's what we're looking at is a situation where step back, like, take stock in what you have and where you're at. Can you improve the roster? Can you fill some of the gaps that are missing in this roster? And can you move forward? Because when you hit that button and then it doesn't go right, that means that it all goes wrong. That means that if you had a general manager who worked out a contract extension for a head coach during the offseason, and then they have to pay out that contract extension for the next 2 years after this.
Yep.
And then you go on to win 28 games or something. Just like note to self, the general manager doesn't survive that either. Like the last ditch effort is like always to fire the coach and push blame one way or another. That's the beginning of the end. And then you really have to start worrying about De'Aaron Fox's contract extension next summer.
Yes. Like there's dominoes to this.
Yeah. Like where does this go? It's tough.
I did some math.
Okay.
So since Paul Westphal was fired in the 2011-12 season after 7 games, he went 2-5.
Yep.
Kings interim coaches, including Ty Corbin, George Karl, Keith Smart, and Alvin Gentry, not in that order, are 62 and 120. That is a
yeah.
340 winning percentage. It is 28 games, the exact number you said. That is what they average over an 82 game season.
Well, that, and I can tell you that Keith Smart was given the head coaching job moving forward. He wasn't an interim. He was given the head coaching job for that season and the next, and he had another year left on his deal, or maybe he did not have another year left on his deal, but he was going to hopefully be there, and then the ownership change happened, and they just let him go. Tyrone Corbin was given not an interim tag, a full contract by Pete D'Alessandro, a 2-year deal, and so they paid him for another year after he was gone, except for he was a roving scout or front office.
I would love to be a roving scout.
Okay.
Roving scout means I hang out at my house.
Yeah, but we're not done because
oh, okay, perfect.
George Karl was also given a 3-year deal. He was not an interim. He was given a 3-year deal. And so they were paying Michael Malone, Tyrone Corbin. And when George Karl only lasted a year, he still had 2 years left on his deal. So I would like to call these guys interim head coaches. None of them were interim head coaches except for Alvin Gentry.
Wow.
And we can keep going back. You can go look at how many times Jerry Reynolds took over a team.
How should I frame that statistic? Coaches
that took over mid-season.
Took over mid-season. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, not necessarily interim coaches.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what that's why there's this urgency now for me, because this isn't a team that is bad and it's like, man, you know what? Hey, clean house.
No.
But when you hit that red button, it is domino number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a stack of dominoes that you can't get going back the other direction.
No.
And if I would tell you, dude, I would, if I thought, you know what, this team needs a coaching change, I'd be there. I would say it. I would come out and say, yeah, you know what? Hey, I don't think Mike Brown's a guy. They need to push that red button because they're going to spiral and this is going to go the wrong way. But to me, there are so many other issues with the Kings right now, where we've talked about the roster building. They've had some injury stuff. They've had some regression from players. And if you want to put that on the coaching staff, all right, like that's okay. I don't. I worry. I am very concerned for this iteration of Kings basketball that 2 years ago looked like they were a team on the rise. And we're now sitting here in 21 games into the 24-25 season, wondering if, oh, hey, we're going to get a repeat of what the Kings have always been.
Yeah.
And that sucks. And I really hope it doesn't go that way.
No, I do too. Like, I was hoping for like a stretch of 6 to 7 years here of really good basketball. And look, we might still get it. Like, we might. Like, there's always a possibility that they figure this thing out, that they make a tweak or two to the lineup, the roster right now. They bring in some guys. There's a possibility that this isn't a 32-33 win season, but you're sitting on like the precipice. And Kyle, what I think, like last season, we can just like right off the top of my head, I do it all the time. I talk about the Hornets game, the Pistons game, the Blazers game, the Wizards game. 4 games that just stood out that were like, you can't lose those games. And then we have this whole other grouping of games, these other 5 games that the Kings specifically lost because they missed free throws in the final minute, right? So, you know, the Bucks game, there's other games. But I don't even need to try to give you like 4 games that stand out. I'm looking at the schedule right now and like what's already happened. And you shouldn't have lost a Toronto game. I don't care about the travel. You shouldn't have lost a Toronto game. I agree. You shouldn't have lost the first Spurs game. Yep. You shouldn't have lost the Atlanta Hawks game. You shouldn't have lost the Nets game. You shouldn't have lost the Trailblazers or the Spurs game this last week. We're already at like 5 or 6 games that you're like, that's how you miss the playoffs at the end of the season when the 82 game is tallied.
It's a continuation of all the worst trends from last year.
Yes. All of the worst trends are there.
And I get that there are some people who are going to go, and I see in the chatty house, I hear you yelling at your radio. There are people going, right, that's the coaching. Attitude reflects leadership. Shout out to Remember the Titans. I understand that. And I understand that thought process. The problem for me is I think their problems are personnel related. Their larger, kind of bigger problems are personnel related. And they added DeMar DeRozan, but they didn't do anything to fix their problems with length and athleticism on the perimeter.
No, it was
And-
DeMar DeRozan and the same 7 guys.
Yeah. And that's nice. Like they put the ball in the hoop better for sure. But I've not watched the Kings really at all this year, save for Keegan Murray and Kevin Huerter having their shooting struggles and gone, wow, this offense just not working.
Mm-hmm.
That they're scoring points. They're putting the ball in the hoop. They just can't get stops.
Yeah. Well, specifically, they can't get stops from behind the arc.
Yeah, and there's only so many adjustments you can make scheme-wise before you go, hey, they just don't have the players to do this. And
well, that's where it's like the chicken or the egg, because it's like, okay, you understand who your players are. Now you have to coach to the strengths of your players.
That's true. That's
and you gotta figure it all out, to be fair. So, but I'm just gonna lump like coach, general manager, all these guys in the same bucket at this point.
Yeah.
You all have to figure it out. You all have to get on the same page, and you got to figure it out, because the big red button that's staring you in the face that we all know is like someone wants to just
someone's itching to hit it.
He wants to hit that button like lighting the beam. Like it's sitting right there, just wants to put his hand on it and smack that button. That is such a destructive button in this moment.
Yep.
And it means chaos.
Yep.
And chaos over 2, maybe 5 years, because the domino effect, it could keep going and going and going.
Yeah.
And we're already seeing ticket prices are high, 1,000 empty seats every night, sometimes 2,000 empty seats every night. Like, you're looking at, like, this is it encompasses everything, Kyle. The business side, the basketball side, the coaching side, the general manager side, all of it. And that's where it's like, don't make a knee-jerk reaction after what we expect to be like tonight. I have a tough time believing the Kings are going to beat the Rockets. And it's not because I think the Kings are horrible. It's because I think the Rockets are a better team right now, and I think they're a really bad matchup. Mm-hmm. And they have every single one of those things that we keep telling everyone that the Kings need. They have like 6 of them.
Yeah,
like they have
the
waves.
Rockets are really a well-built roster.
Yeah, it's like Jabari Smith Jr., long athletic. Asura Thompson, long and athletic. Tara Eason, long and athletic.
Dylan Brooks.
Like, just keep going down the list. I mean, Cam Whitmore can't even get on the court. He's down in the G League.
Cam Whitmore would start for the Kings.
Or play 25 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, tough.
All right. We'll dive into that game. We'll dive into the matchup. How did the Rockets get ahead of the Kings? I want to just dissect that a little bit with you. Let's get to our Jiffy Lube teamwork plays of the game from over the weekend, because we were holding out on this, hoping that we would have sweatshirts to give away, which we now do.
Oh, we do.
A big shout out to our guy Jim with Brickhouse Industries for coming through, and a big shout out to Jiffy Lube as well, because they're going to hook you up this month with this sick Insiders hoodie. I don't know. I don't have the stream up. Is this the right spot?
Yeah.
Do I have this in a good place where everybody can see it? We have them in black. We have them in red. We have them in blue. We're giving those away as part of our Jiffy Lube teamwork play of the day giveaway throughout this month. Yep. We'll give you a word throughout the week. And then on Fridays, we will give away a $50 Jiffy Lube gift certificate and an Insiders hoodie.
That's right.
So after each Kings game, make sure to tap into the Insiders, and we will give you a keyword. So here's the 2 from over the weekend. I'm just gonna give them both to you right now. The whole point of having 2 is getting you to listen, and you got to wait around. No. I'm not gonna make you do that today. You're welcome.
Especially since we forgot to give you the.
We didn't forget. Yesterday. We were waiting on the hoodies.
Okay.
The 2 words, you're going to enter them at ESPN1320.com. The contest page is front and center, courtesy of our friends at Jiffy Lube. The first word from the Friday game against the Blazers is thud. THUD, thud. Because that is how that game felt. You needed to go in and you needed to blow the Blazers out, and you face planted. That's tough. We had a really hard time coming up for a word from the Spurs game. So we went with the guy who had a 34, 14, 11, and 3 blocks triple-double, Wemby. WEMBY, Wemby is your second word. So go to ESPN1320.com. Enter each of the words individually. Don't enter them at the same time. That'd be insane. Enter twice. Give yourself 2 chances to win a $50 Jiffy Lube gift certificate just ahead of the holiday driving season. You're going to want to get your car. You're going to want to get that oil changed, headlights. You're going to want to get wiper blades, your battery,
Oh,
They can
yeah.
do all that for
battery.
you. Do that before the holiday travel season begins at jiffylube.com. Find the location nearest you. Yeah, $50 Jiffy Lube gift certificate and a hoodie of your choice, black, red, or blue.
That's right.
An insider's hoodie. Exclusive, by the way. You can't buy these. You can get these via giveaway only.
That's right. Well, that and go to jiffylube.com to get a $33 off coupon.
Do that for sure.
Yeah, for your oil change. Good stuff.
All right. Wild Monday Night Football game last night, by the way. Jameis Winston.
It's just wild.
He is the most entertaining player in the league.
Did you? He had.
I couldn't look away. I don't give a rip about the Browns or the Broncos. Couldn't care less. Couldn't look away from the game last night because you might see a pick six. You might see a 78-yard touchdown. Doesn't matter.
The stat was something crazy, like he threw for 497 yards,
which is nuts in itself.
And then he had like 179 yards and return yards against him on his INTs.
These are 2 pick sixes. And then after the game, he said, I pray the Lord delivers me from pick sixes.
Well, he does a lot of praying to the Lord. That's every time I see him.
Man. I just, he's...
God bless his heart.
He is the player he is at this point. He might win you a couple games, and he's going to lose you more. But man, is it fun to watch. Even with like a minute left, after his second pick six that put the Broncos up 9 with, I think it is a little over a minute left. It's like, I got to stick around. He might throw another one. He might throw a long touchdown, and we got a game.
I am here for him to be the Raiders quarterback next season.
And then he gets him into the red zone where, okay, hey, you get a touchdown, you get the onside kick. Nope, interception. The worst one of the night, by the way. I don't know what he was doing.
I never know what he's doing.
Never change, Jameis, please. You were the most entertaining player in football. All right. We might talk a little more about that game, but we got Kings Rockets tonight. We'll dive into the matchup for you. We will have some 49ers injury updates and the funniest suspension in NFL history happened today. We'll get into that as well on the Insiders. He's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We are sponsored by Jiffy Lube, and this is ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader.
Cool. Tyler Jennings. The first word was thud. The second word was Wemby. Wemby. Somebody in the chat put up that Matt Moore, Tom L. Matt Moore is reporting on the Substack that teams are ready to pounce if Fox becomes available. I mean, Tom, like that falls under like the no S Sherlock. Like, of course.
My favorite reports are team interested in good player.
Multiple teams interested in good player.
Great.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. We got like 3 minutes.
It said Tyler's saying he can only submit one per day.
Bring your books.
Oh, sweet. Thanks. Shout out to Cam.
Actually, we might think about bunker with this one.
Oh, okay. They're publicist.
Oh. All right.
All right.
Oh, good. How are you?
Good. Medulla oblongata to everybody out there.
Charlie's here. Do you see our new sweatshirts?
No. Ooh, I like them.
Yeah.
Very classic look.
Yeah. I dig it.
I dig it. Matt's such a good guy.
He is. Oh, I don't know why you guys can't put in more than one. That's weird. Maybe I'll ask Jackie. Well, I'm excited for this. Mornings with Madden. My Radio Life with an American Legend by Stan Bunger. Forward by Peyton Manning. Huge John Madden fan. Yeah. See? Right here. That's totally true. But Buster Posey will change it all. It's okay. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Wheezy. I don't think this is factual. I do not believe that's the case, but that's okay. Eric M. I'm gonna say not really. I'm like I don't know. Like he didn't move the needle one way or another, to be honest.
Scoop. 2 minutes.
Yeah. Ain't this effects?
Oof.
We're not there yet. Tyler Jennings. This should mean more Isaac Jones minutes.
For more on that, wait for Keys to the Game coming up at 11:30. It's my third key.
Your third key.
It's Isaac Jones season.
Isaac Jones. Third key.
The Isaac Jones fan club merch is just Colby Jones fan club merch with Colby scribbled out and Isaac handwritten.
Just a line through it. We should do them like with a white background, and just leave the blank Jones fan club, so you can write your own name in, whoever you would like. Mason Jones, okay. Colby Jones, okay. Yeah. The keys write themselves. You're right, Tyler. Tyler said that you can only put in one name right now.
Okay. Which one works?
I don't know if one works or both works. I mean, one or the other. I'm going to guess that everyone put in Thud first.
Oh, here we go. James Ham there. I'm Kyle Madsen. Jiffy Lube sponsors the program, and we have a Kings Rockets showdown tonight. You know, we've discussed before just where the Rockets have kind of surpassed the Kings here in the West hierarchy over the last couple of seasons. They had not done so last year, but with their kind of meteoric rise this year, with the Kings struggling, the Rockets come into tonight's game at 15-6, winners of 3 in a row and 5 of their last 6, and what 10 of 12.
10 of 12.
And they're rolling right now. Meanwhile, the Kings are lost 7 of their last 9. They've lost 2 in a row, and they're struggling. And it's hard to compare them because they were built so differently. Like the Kings had a star in De'Aaron Fox, and were struggling to build around him until they traded for Domantas Sabonis, and then they drafted Keegan Murray number 4 overall. And then had that kind of foundation to kind of build around. You bring in Kevin Huerter, you bring in Trey Lyles, you sign Malik Monk and have the Malik Monk signing work out. And that was kind of how they rapidly built this contender. Meanwhile, the Rockets, it's not super complicated. You just hit some draft picks.
Oh, they stripped it down, got as many picks as possible, and then just hit one after another.
Jalen Green, number 2 overall in the 2021 draft. Jabari Smith, number 3 overall in the 2022 draft. Amen Thompson, number 4 overall in the 2023 draft. They also wound up with Alperen Şengün, the 16th pick of the 2021 draft. And then Tari Eason, who was the 17th pick in the 2022 draft.
Yep. And Cam Whitmore is number 21, 22 overall in the 2023 draft.
Yeah, and Reed Shepherd doesn't play a ton, but was awesome in the preseason.
Yeah.
And summer league for whatever that's worth, which is not a whole heck of a lot. Like Jayshawn Tate's a good player who doesn't really.
Well, and Reed Shepherd was what?
Jayshawn Tate was undrafted.
4th pick in the draft?
Who?
Reed Shepard,
Y-
3rd overall pick.
Third overall pick.
Yeah, I mean,
Cam
the
Whitmore, 20th pick in 2023.
Yeah, the entire team is
It's insane.
they have like a bunch of top tier.
Yeah.
And they really hit with Albert and Şengün. That's the one that they've hit out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
The other guys are still developing, and they're still good young players.
Mm-hmm.
They just haven't reached any height that you thought that they would reach yet.
And I think it's kind of interesting because we say they have all these players that fit the mold of the players the Kings kind of need.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why the different builds, this is where the different builds come into play, because the Kings have needed to they went 0 to 100 like that, right? They went not a playoff team to 48 wins and the number 3 seed.
They jumped from 30 to 48, 18 game jump. Yep.
They didn't have the margin for error, or they didn't have the ramp up to take flyers on 6'7", 6'6", 6'11" guys who could just go play. Like, hey, you can go figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Green has not been awesome his entire career, but he's gotten to play a ton.
Yeah.
He's gotten to go figure it out. And that's been the difference. And I think the reason we've seen such a quick turnaround is they went out and went, okay, we've got all these cheap young players. Let's go get Fred VanVleet. Might overpay him a little bit, but he's going to be a great leader.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go get a Jeff Green. Let's go get a Dylan Brooks. A little reclamation project. Let's bring in Dylan Brooks and see if we can't establish that kind of defensive-minded culture, which is what they've done.
Yeah, even Steven Adams. They brought in Steven Adams.
Another great one.
He doesn't play a ton, but if you look at the way that they're built, they've got just a very, very good mix of teachers to go with students.
Yep.
And so you're having a bunch of young players learn how to play and grow together. That's I think this is a scary team. They took sort of the jump, the same jump that we saw from the Thunder last year. The Thunder went from like a really fun young team to, oh my gosh, they're really good. And now, oh my gosh, they might be, the team that will represent the Western Conference in the finals. They did that in 2 years. But you see the Rockets taking the same type of jump where they got right up to like the 10 seed, the 11 seed, right around there. And then boom, they're ready to roll. So I think we're seeing a new trend with younger teams that are being able to develop quicker. And I'm not sure why that is. But I certainly know this doesn't usually work. When you have this many young players at one time, it doesn't usually work. And the only way it does is if you have a really, really strong structure in place.
Yep.
And so shout out to Dagnall, and shout out to Emi Udoka here that has done a really good job of reining these guys in, holding them accountable, like developing a giant group of young players. It's just such a different type of feel than what you do in Sacramento, where you had a 24, 25-year-old Fox, and then you started adding all these pieces around his age to try to build this thing out. And it's just two different types of builds. But I think we all expected the Kings to be a team that was able to build off of 48 and get to 50 something, and then get to, closer to 60, closer to the high 50s in year 3, which is this year. And instead of doing that, they've lost their way a little bit, which is weird because this isn't a young team. It's a veteran-laden team at this point, and you're like, what's wrong?
But I think that's what makes it difficult to add. Like, we've talked for 3 years now. Well, you and I have talked for the last year and a half. Like, man, they need everything the Rockets have: size, athleticism. The problem is veteran players who are legitimate athletic 3-and-D wings don't just like come available.
No,
those are usually players the teams are going to covet. And to go get one via the draft, like it becomes harder to do when you can't take a flyer on a guy. When you can't go, who's the guy that went to the Pistons? Ron Holland?
Yeah.
You can't take a flyer on Ron Holland because you're like, man, he's 19. We don't know how he's going to develop. Don't really have time to let him develop. So it's got to be Devin Carter, who played for multiple years in college and is 22 years old, and we think he's more NBA ready now, where you might be limiting your ceiling, and you're like, the needle you're trying to thread is just so much thinner because you're trying to add assets like via the draft or via undrafted free agency or via trade that are not super easy to go find.
Well, that and Kyle, I think when you're drafting at number 12, 13, 14, and you're a good team that for some reason has your pick, like you fell apart at the end of the season, you somehow have your pick, you're still looking for a more seasoned veteran player that fits into the anywhere between 1 and 8 in your rotation. You don't care, maybe 1 and 9. Like, it's okay. As long as they're a rotational player, we're okay. When you're drafting in the top 5, it's like, okay, I need a franchise altering guy. I need this guy to be excellent. I need him to be somebody that we're going to build around for the next 10 years, right? And so your approach is different, but also I think the Kings just naturally gravitate towards more mature college players. That's what the front office, the current front office does. I've talked about this. The only guy they've ever drafted that was young, like a 18, 19-year-old, was Jemias Ramsey. Outside of that, everyone else is a junior, senior in college, or a really old sophomore.
And I get why, but I think it limits them. If you're not going to go take a flyer on a Cam Whitmore because you go, yeah, no, I don't love that he was born in 2004. All right.
Yeah.
It just the pool they're playing in is just so much smaller than a team like the Rockets. You're like, yeah, hey, give us all the size, give us all the athleticism. We'll take it and we'll figure it out. And they've been able to do that because they were terrible. And the Kings don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this is so tough. So
yeah,
it's the Rockets are just I don't want to say they've done it the right way necessarily, because I don't think there's a right way to build a team, but they've done this path that they chose the right way. Does that make sense?
No, it does, because I can tell you the 2017 NBA draft, the Kings had the 5th pick, the 15th pick, the 20th pick, and like the 32nd pick. It didn't work out. And they brought Bogdanovic over the same year.
Yeah.
Like I think 2 of those players are still in the NBA. And we're talking about 7 years ago. I mean,
it should be in their primes.
Yeah, a lot of guys. The 2018 draft, they missed. They missed with Marvin Bagley. They didn't have a pick in 2019. So you're always looking at, like, how did you get here? But the Kings tried this. Again, De'Aaron Fox's rookie season, they had 9 players that were first and second year players. They didn't capture lightning in a bottle like the Rockets have, or like OKC did.
Yeah.
And some of that's because you didn't have the number 1 or number 2 overall pick and a great draft. Although the Bagley draft, I shouldn't say that they did.
Pretty good draft.
And even the 2017 draft, the 5th pick, they did hit. It's just, you got to hit on more than one of them.
Yeah.
And if you're going to build something, there's a big difference between, trading for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and then drafting Jalen Williams and hitting on, getting a really lucky pick, which had Holmgren. Like, you're able to build your team a different way. Some really good draft picks, but also go back and look at how many picks the Thunder had over those years.
Yeah.
And how many they missed on.
Yep.
How many guys that just didn't make it in the league and were first round picks that they just jettisoned after 2 years, because that's the way they're just cycling through so many first round picks.
They had a lot of darts to throw.
Yeah.
And eventually you're going to hit a bullseye.
That's right.
And that's how the Rockets have done it. Or the Rockets have done it. That's how the Thunder have done it. We'll have injury reports for you. We'll have starting lineups and all of that, plus keys to victory coming up a little bit later on. He's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. Want to remind you, we've got NBA Cup action for you tonight on ESPN 1320. The Golden State Warriors are taking on the Denver Nuggets. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. right here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. All right. You went to practice yesterday.
I did.
Mike Brown absolutely just abusing the media.
Yeah, mostly me.
We're doing
me.
jokes.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, I like when Mike, when he gets into it and he's trying to explain what it is that they're asking for, because
so real quick, just to set the scene, Mike Brown at his press scrum yesterday after practice got asked about how the Kings were going about defending the Victor Wembanyama pick and roll, correct?
Yep.
And Mike, instead of just saying like, oh yeah, we got to do better next time, or we got to make some adjustments or watch the film, goes into full coach mode.
Yep. Use me as a crash test dummy.
It's incredible.
Yeah, like, and like, it makes sense. What he's trying to show you is that, like, when you're the screener or you're the guy defending the screen, when I go to set a pick on somebody, the defender, if you're defending the guy who's setting the screen, you got to get right up into the action.
Mhm.
You can't just let either the guy step back and clear out both players,
Mhm.
be able to screen both players, and then the shooter just steps back and shoots a three
Mhm.
with space. You have to keep manipulating sort of the pick and roll situation, and the Kings didn't do a great job of manipulating it, and it's something that they've been taught forever, you know.
One of the things that keeps jumping out to me is when, well, Mike Brown talked about it after the game. Keegan Murray talked about it after the game. Malik Monk talked about it after the game. We've heard DeMar DeRozan discuss this. I've seen Sac Kings Film Room on Twitter had a bunch of video examples of this. It's the communication. How often do we hear the Kings talk about need to communicate, got to communicate better? We just need to communicate better. Attention to detail, communication. As Mike was going through that yesterday and explaining all the different ways that things went wrong in covering the pick and roll against the Spurs, so much of it came down to just talking and knowing how they're defending on a specific play, because they're doing different things. It's not the exact same thing every time down. You're throwing different pitches, but so many of their issues just came down to, hey, that guy was open because these two players didn't communicate properly, and they both Wemby rolled, and Domas and Keegan went with him and left whoever wide open up top. For one example, there's just a million of those, and I don't. It's one of those things that's like easier said than done. I think, like, I'm just a guy with a microphone. I would love to know why. Like, why don't you just communicate then? Just do it. That seems like a pretty easy thing to do. It's just, hey, we're doing XYZ. Hey, stop the ball. I've got ABC. Like, I don't know why you don't just do it.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
No,
it seems like a pretty simple fix if that's all it is.
Yeah.
Start yapping.
It's very strange why it doesn't happen. Why the Kings, they're known as a quiet team, but that doesn't matter. A quiet team, like on the court, you can't be quiet.
I'm sorry. I don't.
You just can't.
You can be quiet off the court for sure, but that's not an excuse. Like, I don't like public speaking, so you can't call out a screen because you don't like to talk in public.
Yeah,
dog, wrong game. That's insane. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. Like, when in my second season, I remember the Kings lost to the Denver Nuggets, and the Nuggets had something like 90 points in the paint, 92 points in the paint. All they did was score at the rim again and again. They took like a total of 3 jump shots, like outside the paint that they hit. And Paul Westphal was just like, I don't, like, we got destroyed, but like, we taught pick and roll defense. It's not like they don't know a defense. And even like my first year covering this team, they had a whole bunch of centers. They had Samuel Dalembert. They drafted DeMarcus Cousins and Hassan Whiteside. The only guy that could play pick and roll defense was Darnell Jackson. And everyone's like, who's that? Exactly. He's the only guy
that played wide receiver for the 49ers for a year.
Yeah, he's the only guy who understood. He was a 6'9" undersized center. He's the only one that understood how to play pick and roll defense.
That's insane.
And we're talking about Samuel Dalembert, a true shot blocker. So it's one of those things where, like, it doesn't matter how much you coach sometimes, if they're not being physical enough which is what Mike was trying to do. He was trying to show how to be physical. And if you're not being physical at the point of attack, that's how you keep getting blown up on pick and rolls. And so I get it. Tough stuff.
Yeah, that's, man. Hated to see you go down like that. That was tough. Yeah, because I think it was Matt George had the video where it was just on you and Mike, and he was also using Deuce and Sean as like a, hey, so when you set a screen and you get taken out by it, what should you do? Like, all right, step back. And then he's displaying the physicality. Was like, oh God, Mike, no. Mike Brown wasn't the only person who talked yesterday at Kings practice. DeMar DeRozan and Keegan Murray both had some really interesting things to say, and these two things are semi-related. So we're going to hear from DeMar DeRozan first, and this is DeMar. The line of questioning starts with, how do you help a young player like Keegan Murray? So this soundbite's a couple of minutes, but I think it's all really important, and we'll get into what this all means here. Here's DeMar DeRozan yesterday at Kings practice. Sound courtesy of James Ham at the Kings Beat.
I mean, it's a daily thing. We in here every day practicing. If it's film, if it's something we see, if we going through walkthrough, if we shooting, whatever it is, like constant dialogue that people don't get to see outside of us just going out and play a game. It's a lot of things that as a collective we tend to try to do for one another. Because we all need it. Just because one person's struggling, we just don't point to that one person. It's a us thing. So just being confident. Reps, continue to stay the course, and kind of weather this tough time right now. We'd be all right.
You've talked a lot about the mental side of basketball. Just how much is this just like trying to get young players through the mental side?
Yeah, I mean that's the toughest part now. It's so easy to see with if you play bad, what everybody got to say about it, and I think a lot of people don't put that in consideration in a sense of, everybody kind of, built different, so a lot of times if you're going through something, it could be something outside of basketball that you're dealing with that's affecting basketball, but you're getting talked about what's going on in basketball, that could take a toll, so it's definitely tough in so many different ways. Not saying this is going on with anybody specifically, but it's just tough at times from the mental standpoint to keep yourself up when you got so many people reaching at you about this person saying this writer said this could happen. Sometimes you just got to find a way just to be, tunnel vision and concentrate and pay attention to what matters. So, I can only imagine how tough it is for, young people now. I remember you used to have to buy the newspaper when I first came in the league. So, yeah. Damn, that sound old. But,
but that's so it's interesting to me that he says, yeah, no, like everybody's kind of built different. Like you don't know what it's like when you're struggling. Then you see in the media or you go on social media and you see in your mentions. Like I'm sure if Keegan Murray's on Twitter or whatever, any struggling player, like I'm sure your mentions are a dumpster fire after you go 0 for 2 from 3.
Oh, two things. Number one, Keegan doesn't do a bunch of social media, but that doesn't mean that his dad doesn't, or his brother, or his girlfriend, or his mom, and they don't, or his buddies, they don't send him that stuff.
Yeah.
And secondly, like I have people in my mentions. Oh, Kevin Herter already shut off all of his comments on Instagram, and like
I would do the exact same thing.
They hear it all.
Yes.
Like, and you guys have the people out there have to understand, like. They're just normal dudes. Like Keegan Murray is a totally normal dude.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Herter, we talk all the time about the New York Giants, mainly to making fun of him.
Mm-hmm.
It just like banter in the locker room and stuff. Like they're just normal people, but just think of the scrutiny that they're under. And when they have a bad shooting night and how it can start to weigh on them, that they know when they walk back in the locker room, they're going to see even more of it. And it's going to get even darker stuff.
On top of the scrutiny they put themselves under.
Yeah.
Everybody's your own harshest critic, right?
Yep.
So on top of that, you then go in, dude, when one person says a mean thing about something I wrote, it like sticks with me. It just sits there.
Yeah.
And whether it bothers me or not, or changes the way I do something, not usually, but it just sits there. And I just like, it's just in the back of your mind. Can you imagine just every single time you have a little bit of a bad day at your job, it's just hundreds of people letting you know that you had a bad day and that they're not happy about it.
And how bad they think you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, DeMar says, man, you used to have to buy the newspaper to see that stuff when I came into the league, but now with social media and all this, I can't imagine how hard it is. So Keegan Murray gets asked, hey, how difficult is this? You're struggling right now. How we feeling? Here's the line of questioning that starts with that. Hey, you're struggling. How you feeling?
I mean, I'm fine. I feel like I'm in a good space. It's just obviously things haven't really gone my way this year, but I feel like a lot of guys on our team are in a good space. So just being able to figure out how to win games is our biggest issue right now.
What do you make of your shooting woes? I mean, we've seen you shoot since you came in the league, and you're a really good shooter, but this season, for whatever reason, they're just not falling.
I mean, I'm not worried about it. I mean, obviously, like I said, it hasn't gone my way, but it's a long season, so I'm just staying confident.
Have you ever been through something like this in your basketball career, a slump that goes this long?
Yeah, I mean, my freshman year in college, I shot like 28%. So I've gone through it before. So it's just being able to continue to stay working at it, and things will eventually even out. So it's whatever.
In those moments where you're not knocking out shots, there are some games where it looks like you lose confidence out there. In those moments, like, is that something you're conscious of? Like, what's going through your mind in those moments?
I wouldn't say lose confidence, but I mean, for me, if I feel like if my shot's not falling, I try and figure out how to affect the game in different ways, because there's a lot more to the game than just making shots. So just trying to affect that, and I think if I continue to do that, eventually it'll get me going. So
Kind of building off of that, I know Mike encourages you, if it's open, take it no matter what. He'll live with the miss, but also I know when you're having a shooting slump, you're encouraged to try and get to the basket and change things that way. How do you balance the when to attack, like you attacked Wemby last night, versus when to let it go?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've done a good job of attacking the rim on occasions this year. So just doing that, I feel like continues to keep my confidence up. So like I said, I'm not worried about myself. I know I can get through this, and yeah. So.
Well, that's good news. He said all the right things.
He did. And you know what? Like, everything he said,
I mean, I'm
like,
fine.
It was genuine. Like, I didn't feel like he was masking anything. And like,
No.
I mean,
Can
there
I
are
nitpick?
flames all around him while he's saying it, but you know, like,
Yeah.
everything's fine here.
Can I nitpick?
Okay.
He said he shot 28% in college from three.
Yep.
It was 29.6%. He only shot 54 threes that year.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it. Not buying it, Keegan. Not buying it one bit. No, I just he said all the right things for sure, but
I mean, I'm fine.
it's really clear he's not between the lines. I'm sure he's not sitting there going like, oh my God, I need to change everything.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I as a basketball player? Should I quit? Like, I don't think it's anything like that, but it's really clear when you go from shooting 38% across your first two seasons to 27%
Oh yeah.
through the first 21 games, and he's taking 2 threes in their last game. It's really clear he doesn't have confidence in his shot right now.
Yeah. It's tough because you see players go through stuff like this all the time, but to see a young player go through it who should be on his way up,
Exactly.
and just so everyone knows, he knows that as well.
Mhm.
He knows what he's meant, and he knows that if he's not on his way up, what the next thing is going to be, and that's, you know, the rumors.
Mhm.
Like, is Keegan Murray all of a sudden touchable? Is he not untouchable? How about that? So, can you go get him from the Kings?
Other people's privates.
Mm-hmm. You got that. Oh,
Yeah.
shoot. Hey, we have to go. We'll be back in a second. That's James and Kyle. The 49ers nightmare season somehow got worse. We'll talk about it next on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. Hey, it's your guys, Kyle and James. We are the insiders, and we are here to tell you about Jiffy Lube. And there's no more important time. And you always want to take care of your vehicle, of course.
Of course.
But with the holiday driving season coming up, I would wager that if you're ranking the most important times to make sure that your vehicle is taken care of, this is the most important one. Go get that oil changed.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a holiday special $33 off coupon right now at jiffylube.com. Get your oil changed. The wiper blades we always talk about. You don't want that rain to come down and you're going, oh, okay, I'm on the freeway. The rain's coming down. Let me throw on my windshield wipers. And then it's just smearing water all over your windshield and making it harder to see.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Get
And
that fixed now.
Kyle, the other thing while you're there, ask him to check your headlights. Make sure that both your headlights are functional, or you don't need just new headlights. If your headlights haven't dimmed and starting to get a little worn out, they take care of that service. Also, if you're starting your car in the morning on these cold mornings and your car's just not really wanting to turn over all that well,
Mhm.
you're going to need new battery, and you're going to need one now. So go to Jiffy Lube, and they'll take care of you.
You don't want to find out your battery's dead when it's nighttime and it's 30 degrees out.
Hey, I had it last night after a soccer game.
Oh, no.
2 minivans pulled up next to each other. Jumper cables on. Somebody needed to jump.
Go to Jiffy Lube.
Go to Jiffy Lube.
You can find the location nearest you at jiffylube.com today. And again, get that $33 off oil change coupon. It's a holiday special. Get it right now at jiffylube.com. Bang! We're clear. Let's go. Let's go. We did it again. We did it again.
Kyle, we have breaking news from Shams. I don't understand this one. Paul Millsap is retiring from basketball. Like, when was the last time Paul Millsap played basketball?
Damn. Pour one out for our guy, Paul Millsap.
I'm not sure why we need a breaking, retiring Chiron. I'm confused.
Paul Millsap, when do you think the last time Paul Millsap played in a game was?
2 years ago.
Oh, did you look it up already?
No.
It was 2020, March of 2022. Played 9.5 minutes. Shout out to Paul Millsap. What up, y'all? Yeah, Jazz legend for sure. Wasn't Paul Millsap in the Hawks starting five that was the collective Western Conference Player of the Week? That's the thing that happened, right? Oh, snap. Hey, someone block this person. Oh, the worst. The worst is when you have a meeting that literally gets recapped in an email. Like there's that is my least favorite thing. Not only could this meeting have been an email, they're literally showing you it could have been an email by sending an email that recapped the meeting that could have been an email.
We're not back, right?
Not yet.
All right.
30 seconds.
Jared Vanderbilt won't be back until mid-January. Very true, Tony.
Dude, I hang on. I have thoughts on this. Okay, here we go. Hour number 2, that's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We are the Insiders, and we're rocking with you until noon. Then we'll hand it off to D'Lo and KC. And D'Lo and KC will take you up to 4 o'clock on Sacramento Sports Leader. Let's put a pin in the Kings stuff here for a bit because, man, the 49ers season, you want to talk about seasons that have gone sideways. Like we talk about the Kings, they're 9-12. If Keegan Murray starts knocking down threes, we feel a lot different about the Sacramento Kings, right? Like if there are some minor things that can happen where they could go in 5 of 6 and all of a sudden we feel a lot different. The 49ers are 13 weeks in, they're 5-7. Their injury problems are off the rails entirely. They have had multiple unthinkable personal tragedies to some of their top players. They had a guy get shot right before the first week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the weekend before the season opener. Like it's just been a mess of a year, right? And it's culminated in this. They're 5-7. Their playoff chances are they exist, but only in the realm of delusion, right? Then head coach Kyle Shanahan announces yesterday, honestly, some good news on Christian McCaffrey, that it is a PCL injury that's only expected to keep McCaffrey out for 6 weeks.
Okay.
And the reason that's good news, his season's over. He's going on IR. That's a minimum of 4 weeks out. They have 5 games left.
He'd be ready for the playoffs, Kyle. I don't know what you're talking about. And if they get a first round bye,
he's ready
then...
for a deep play. They literally can't. They're literally mathematically eliminated from a first round bye. But so his season's over. I'm going to, just so everybody knows, when we talk about the 49ers, I'm going to operate under the assumption they're not going to the playoffs. That cool with everyone?
Yeah, that's fine.
They're 1.6% playoff chances. I don't want to have to account for those when we're discussing the 49ers. I think that's fair.
No, I ordered a bugle on Amazon and I will be playing taps at some point this week.
I ordered a bugle and I learned how to play taps.
Yeah, I can. I played the trumpet for 5 years. I'm sure I can play a bugle and play taps.
Perfect. Yeah, man. It's just the season's over. If we get to week 18 and it's like, man, winning in, okay, cool. We'll cover that then. But for now, the season's done. So Christian McCaffrey's season's over. Honestly, the McCaffrey news for me was like, oh, it's not. Yeah, it's only 6 weeks, which again is not great, but that means he can take the rest of this season off, which he probably should have done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You can take the rest of this year off, and you can have a full off season. You can recover. You can get right. He turns 29 next year or this year. When's Christian McCaffrey's birthday? I'm so bad with ages and birthdays.
It's possible it's at any moment.
It could be tomorrow. No, June 7th. So he'll be 29 next year. Like, he hasn't fallen off that cliff just yet. So I'm not deeply concerned about Christian McCaffrey going into next year. And I think, honestly, a 6-week injury for something that could have been like devastating, that's not too bad.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, this is a player that you have to have healthy if you plan on making a run next season.
Yep.
And, the 49ers still plan on making a run next season. Trent Williams is going to be aging out here. They've got maybe one more attempt at this thing before the window is completely closed and they have to reboot at least partially. And, he's the guy you've got to center a lot of it around. And if you do not have him healthy, you see what happens. You struggle to be successful. You struggle to get wins.
Yeah.
So,
on the Christian McCaffrey front, unrelated to anything having to do with the 49ers and their future success or lack thereof, the reaction to the McCaffrey injury was deeply irresponsible. The amount of people I listen to the prominent football podcast, where one of the hosts yesterday was recorded Sunday night and it came out yesterday, just goes, yeah, he tore his Achilles. Like, you can see it on the replay. You see it snap. You can see it. He tore his Achilles. He might never play football again. Like, that was the whole take.
Wow.
And he was basing this off a replay of the play where he didn't even get hurt.
No.
He got hurt on the long run where he got tripped up. And then the next play tried to run and realized, oh, this doesn't feel right, and went down.
Yeah, he started hopping and they said, oh, no. And
Shanahan said after the game it's a knee injury, and this host on this podcast goes, not buying it. Shanahan yesterday says, yeah, it's a PCL injury. He's going to be out 6 weeks. He's probably done for the year. And this host still goes, not buying it. Like, because why?
he's not selling anything.
Because of what?
Yeah, we don't care if you're buying. He's not selling.
Achilles was trending on Twitter because people going, wow, tore his Achilles, RIP. Like, wow, pour one out. His career's done. Like, man, what?
That's crazy.
I get that there are literal doctors on Twitter who try to play doctor, and okay, that's fine.
Uh-huh.
If you're gonna go, yeah, I see this in the video. This is kind of what I think, but who knows? I'm not in the X-ray room. I'm not handling the patient, so I don't know. This is what I see. If it is this, here's what it means. If it's that, here's what it means.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, that's kind of interesting. The people who are not medical professionals, who just decided, oh yeah, he's done. His career's over. Like, dude, you got to be better than that. We have to, as a society, be better about handling injuries. And we also have to, as a society, while I'm on this rant, we have to stop broadcasters from going, I'm not going to speculate, but that to me looks like an ACL. Like, what? I'm not going to speculate. Let me speculate.
With all due respect.
I said with all due respect, I can say whatever the hell I want.
That's right. Kyle, I don't.
So silly, dude.
I'm with you, Kyle.
It's so silly. So people that follow the 49ers go, okay, well, CMC's out. That means it's Jordan Mason time.
Yep.
And then Kyle Shanahan goes, oh yeah, Jordan Mason has a high ankle sprain. He's also going on IR. His season is also probably done.
And everyone in fantasy football instantly put in a waiver claim.
Yeah, we did that.
On Isaac Guerrero.
Just in case.
Yeah, I did just in case in my other league. And like we have a bid system.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're like, hey, it's the end of the season. Let's just bid whatever we have left.
Yeah, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Isaac Guerrero is going to be the Niners starting running back moving forward. I assume he'll garner a lion's share of the carries because they have Patrick Taylor and then probably Keyshawn Vaughn, who was with them in the preseason, but Shanahan said they'll probably add another running back. That would be the logical choice to me. But anyways, look, the Niners aren't going to tank because they owe it to Trent Williams, to Fred Warner, who has played through a fractured ankle, to Deebo Samuel and all these guys. They owe it to them that as long as they have a gasp at making the playoffs, to try for it.
Yep.
And that's been their MO. That is going to continue to be their MO. They could lose this weekend and it all goes out the window. But I don't think the Niners are going to tank. I want to make that very clear. Even after they're eliminated, we might see Fred Warner shut down for the year.
Okay.
We might see Trent Williams shut down for the year. He's got an ankle thing. Warner's got his ankle thing. Bosa's dealing with a hip and oblique injury. There's just no sense having those guys play hurt when they're not playing for anything. So that may be the way we see them, soft tank. But I think that's more injury preservation and looking forward to next year, which is what I think this year has now become. I think the 49ers season now is, okay, Isaac Guerrero, here's your opportunity.
Yep, show me what you got.
Show me what you got. If he plays really well, great. You have RB2 for next year. Jalen Moore, you're starting at left tackle. Maybe you see him as a long-term option for Trent Williams if he comes out and plays really well. Hey, here's your chance.
Yep.
Everybody on the defensive line, prove that you belong here. That's what, and again, we just talked about this. If we get to week 18 and they're in the playoff hunt, hey, you get a win, and if the Rams lose, you're in the playoffs. Okay, cool. We'll talk about it then. But I think the 49ers, a smart thing for them to do right now would be to do everything they can to look ahead to next year. This all has to be about 2025 and beyond.
Oh, yeah.
Because 2024 has, if it wasn't done after the Seahawks game and it wasn't done after the Packers game, and it didn't feel like it was done after the Bills game, it feels done now that their top two running backs are out. Trent Williams and Nick Bosa are still dealing with their injuries and are up in the air, which leads me to believe they're probably not coming back this week.
Yeah, this is a moment for like D winners. Like, what do you got?
A great one, yeah.
What do you got?
Mm-hmm.
And whoever else they bring in, like show us that you can actually make a roster, that you can actually help a team even if it's in a bad situation. It's like what Mike Brown does with when he puts guys in late in games. Like, hey, Keon Ellis showed what he had against the Rockets.
Yeah, that's a
Like,
great
hey,
that's a great point. Yeah.
Look what I can do. And it's like, oh, all right. Well, let's see if you can do that again.
Yeah.
Now let's see if you can do it in the starting group. You know, like you start moving guys around, and every one of these moments is an opportunity for somebody, and you hope that they take it and take advantage of it.
So I remember that we had some people saying, hey, the tanking conversation sucks. And I don't think the 49ers are going to tank, but let me take this angle on it, because I genuinely don't think you're going to have John Lynch or Jed York or Kyle Shanahan going, hey, we're going to play the worst players on purpose.
Yeah.
They're going to try and go win. Like that's the point of the sport. And I think that's what they're going to try and do. On the other hand, I'm going to remove the draft conversation from this, because the 49ers have the 14th pick right now. They could wind up in the top 10 depending on how things shake out. But like I said, I'm less concerned about that. If they're not already at this point, which I think they kind of might be, I think there's an added benefit of the 49ers further collapsing down the stretch here, where they're 5-7. Let's say they win. Let's say they go 1-4 and finish 6-11, where it's just, man, that was a disaster year. I think it really forces them to look internally at what their roster looks like on both sides of the ball. And then with Kyle Shanahan, who I'm sorry, is not getting fired. If you want him fired, I'm sorry, he's not going anywhere. At least I wouldn't bet a penny on that. But I don't think he's going anywhere. If I said that wrong, I wouldn't bet a penny that he's going to get fired. I would bet a lot that he's staying.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to say? Okay. I think it forces him to kind of look internally, just the way this season has gone, where you go, hey, you know what? Didn't have Christian McCaffrey for very much of it. It was kind of a mess, especially getting in the end zone. Like the yards per play, all that was great. But you know what? And without McCaffrey, this offense needs some work. Without Deebo Samuel being prime all-pro Deebo Samuel, this offense needs some work. This positionless stuff that they were working with isn't going to work the same anymore. You got to adapt. And that is one thing for all the faults that and all the issues I have with Kyle Shanahan, I think he's very, very good at adapting and making sure, okay, hey, defenses have caught up to this aspect of my offense in this way. Here's how I'm going to adjust to that adaptation and try and stay ahead. And I think that's what they're going to be forced to do, especially if the wheels really come off here, where it becomes more difficult to go, yeah, it was an injury-filled year. We'll get back on the horse next year. I don't think they would do that anyways, because this is already a mess. But I think there's some added benefit if they go 1-4 in their final 5, where they go, all right, let's overhaul this whole thing. This is done. This run of 49ers football is done.
You think they're going to do that, though? Because
Yes.
I think even if they feel like they're forced, they might look at it like, okay, like we do have a top-tier draft pick. Maybe we do jettison Deebo. Maybe we go through, there's a couple other guys that we just can't keep going with. But I still think with Bosa, with Trent Williams, with, Christian McCaffrey,
Brock Purdy?
Yeah, with Brock Purdy, with Fred Warner, you're still looking at this group and saying, okay, can we piece this thing together?
Yeah.
We still will have one of the more talented rosters in the NFL going into next season. And, you get Ayuk back, you get Greenlaw back. I could see them convincing themselves that they're not that far away.
Yeah. Greenlaw is the interesting one because he's due to hit free agency. And if he doesn't play at all this year, I don't know what his market looks like.
Yeah.
So maybe he just comes back to what's familiar, or maybe a team really likes him and says, hey, we'll pay him despite the fact he's hasn't played since coming off his Achilles injury.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of the reason the 49ers are trying to ramp him up now. They opened his practice window last week. So he has 2 more weeks to get ramped up and play. I think they're trying to do him the solid of like, hey, you can go put some tape out.
Yeah.
But that's still TBD on whether he's going to play at all or not. But yeah, man. And that's why I don't think it's necessarily an adjustment of tear it down and rebuild it. I think they need to make like fundamental tweaks to what their offense is. Can this continue to be a 2 running back, 1 tight end, 2 wide receiver offense that just kind of patchwork offensive line that's just, a starting caliber offensive lineman and we have the playmakers, and I think there needs to be a shift in that thought process. And I think defensively, I think this year is going to force some what's the when you like self-reflect, some soul searching in, hey, do we want this to be this 4-3 defense that doesn't blitz a lot and plays a lot of press man? Is this what we want the defense to be? Or, hey, you know what? We need to be a little more adaptable. This is a league where blitzing is now becoming more of a prevalent thing. When you see it from Brian Flores, uses the blitz really effectively. Steve Spagnuolo uses the blitz really effectively. Maybe they want to build back to front where, hey, you know what? Really awesome secondary, and then we'll figure it out on the defensive line. I don't know. But I think those are the kind of changes we're talking about, because you're right. They're going to have a really good roster still.
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
They should. They should have a good enough roster that a tweak here, a tweak there. Maybe they part ways with Deebo Samuel. Maybe they part ways with Javon Hargrave. Maybe Charvarius Ward walks. But there's just so many places they can improve where you start going, okay, not take a year off, but this is a chance to commit to rebuilding the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
This has to be more of a drop back and pass team, which means, you know what, the offensive line needs to look different. So here, let's adjust that way. Pass rush isn't going to be what we want it to be. So you know what, hey, we're going to adjust, and we're gonna find better players in the secondary, better players in the second level, or this specific type of defensive lineman moving forward. I think this season has already kind of put them in that spot, but losing a few more would help.
Yeah, I think it would, especially for the draft capital. And on top of that, if you really look at where the failures of this team have been this year, the defensive line.
Big time.
And what you did with the defensive line was you went cheap. Like, we know they broke up the Armstead contract and went with 3 guys instead of 1. And then on the offensive line, it's the same thing. They went cheap at a couple of positions, and maybe they learned that they can't do that, that they can't continue to push forward with, everyone wants to win in the trenches except for the 49ers. It's like, you think maybe you got a little too cute?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, with what you did on the defensive line, on the offensive line, and you found somebody in Pooney for sure, but outside of that, like, what do you got?
Who are the two best teams in the NFC right now?
The Lions,
yes,
and probably the Eagles,
yes. Those two, hands down, without question, for me, are the 2 best teams. I expect them to be in the NFC title game together. But the hallmark of those 2 teams is, they have awesome offensive lines and they have awesome defensive lines. The Lions lost Aiden Hutchinson. They lost the equivalent of their Nick Bosa, and they've been fine because they've stacked their defensive line. I think that is a fundamental adjustment I think the 49ers need to make to their team building philosophy, because we're going to draft the guys we're going to draft the playmakers. We're going to draft the guys who score touchdowns. Kyle Shanahan iterated that thought process. Chris Forster, the offensive line coach, iterated that same thought process. Want the guys that score touchdowns, you can figure it out on the offensive line. I don't think that works. Especially when the guys who score touchdowns, Ty Davis-Price, gone. Trey Sermon, gone. Danny Gray, gone.
All you do is miss.
You whiff. Isaac Orendo may or may not be good at football.
Yep.
Jacob Cowing may or may not be good at football. 2 4th-round picks.
That's tough.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
So that's what I would love to see the 49ers go into this year, or go into this offseason, where, you know what, regardless whether they pick 18th or they pick 8th. 18th is the lowest pick you can have without making the playoffs.
Okay.
Whether they pick 18th or they pick 8th. I would love to see just a full-blown investment in offensive line, defensive line. Maybe you throw a safety in there. Maybe you throw a linebacker in there. But I really think that that's what they have to do, and then have to figure out offensively and defensively how it needs to look different, because it's really clear they have to do they can't move forward doing what they're doing.
Well, that, and they can't miss again. They can't miss at the top end of the draft, in the top 10 or the top 12. You just can't miss right there. You have got to get a guy who's going to play, who's going to be a starter on day one, who's going to hold down a position for the next 8 to 10 years.
Yep.
Like, you need either a starting guard or starting tackle or a starting defensive tackle, whatever it is, you got to get them right there. And you can find pass rushers at different times, but you need somebody to stop stop the run. And, they've been great at stopping the run over the last decade because they always have great linebackers. But you can see how it's putting pressure.
Yep.
Now it's like, how much can you hold up when you don't invest in the defensive line in front of those guys?
Well, yeah. And when you replace Dre Greenlaw as a top 7 guy at his position with a very league average to below average player in Devondre Campbell.
Yeah.
It doesn't go as well. But to that point, I do think one of the reasons I'm optimistic that we'll see them change some things is because down the road here, as the cap goes up and some of these players age out, I don't think you're going to see them invest heavy money in tight end again, the way they did with George Kittle. Because finding another player of that caliber, not easy.
Nope.
Same thing with Fred Warner. I don't think you're going to see him invest as heavily in the off-ball linebacker spot as we saw, at least financially, because finding a player as good as Fred Warner is not going to be super easy.
Nope.
And I think they're going to allocate that money elsewhere. And then there's a Brock Purdy aspect of this, which is another key thing to watch down the stretch. Because if he's terrible over these next 5 games, got some questions under center.
Yeah, let's take all of the guardrails off. Take away his left tackle, his starting superstar running back. Take away his backup running back.
Yeah.
Take away his 1,400-yard receiver from last season, and see what you got, kid.
Seriously, though,
what do you got?
Can you be okay? Can you keep this team afloat if not everything is perfect?
Yeah,
that's a big. If you're going to be making the percentage of the cap that he could conceivably make,
yep,
you have to be okay with. Hey, you know what? Kind of league average around you.
Gotta
Figure
be
it
that
out.
guy.
Gotta be that dude. So we'll see. Azeez Al-Shire just received a 3-game suspension. And I'll tell you why it is the silliest suspension in NFL history. It's not because of the hit. The hit was, he deserved to be suspended, but there's some hypocrisy coming from the NFL. We'll talk about that. And we'll have keys to a Kings victory tonight. Can they get off the schneid? Can they beat the Houston Rockets? We'll talk about it next. He's James Ham, Kyle Madsen. We're the Insiders, sponsored by Jiffy Lube here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader.
Fire up this computer.
Spin.
Spin move.
11:27. Look at me getting out on time. Come on. Yeah, it kind of feels that way. I think he's a better player overall, but like if he's not very good down the stretch here, I'm going to have more questions than I had going into the year. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this is like, I know it sounds silly, but this is a legitimate question for me. Like if you can't play when in inclement weather, 20 only have 2 players that you even consider getting another contract. Yeah, because they've had a lot of success. I think the bigger thing that's killed them in those drafts is the fact that, well, the Trey Lance thing didn't work out just because of him. But then not having first round picks in 22 and 23 and having Drake Jackson kind of be the flop that he's been, and as injured as he's been. The 2023 draft is the one where if they wind up, if the Shanahan-Litch tenure winds up kind of spiraling and those guys are out of here by 2026, that's the draft I'll point to, because you trade up for Jair Brown, who I don't think is that good of a player. You draft Jake Moody, 99th, who is at best an average kicker at best.
Yeah.
Which you just can't, when it turns out you can get an average kicker off the street, using the 99th pick on one. You draft Cam Latu, I think 101st overall, who's not even on a team right now. That's the one, man. You went into 2023 needing to really nail that draft, and they didn't.
That's how you sustain greatness, man.
Yeah.
It's about filling all
Yeah.
of the other pieces.
And that's why to the point you make about like you got to hit this year's draft. The reason the Rams had a reset year, right? They went to the Super Bowl, and then I think they went like 4-13 the next year. They had that little reset year.
Yeah.
Or it might have been 2 years later. Anyways, they had what, a year where they went, all right, hey, we're getting rid of some of our big money contracts. We're going to eat this dead money, and then we're just going to draft like hell. We're just going to draft like crazy. We're just going to spend a bunch of draft capital. We're going to trade back. We're going to just look what we just talked about with the Rockets.
Yeah.
Like throwing as many darts as you can and going, okay, hey, we need secondary help. Hey, here's a cornerback in the 5th, 6th, and 2 in the 7th, and here's a couple undrafted guys. Need offensive line help. Hey, here's 3 or 4 offensive linemen. Defensive line help. We're going to prioritize that. We're going to go Jared Verse in the 1st round. And hey, we're going to draft his college teammate as well. We're going to see how that works. Like, and it has. They've been decent this year. So
even if you look at the Rockets, like the Cam Whitmore pick, like there's all kinds of red flags, but top 4 talent, they're one of the few teams that could take that risk in the 20s because like why not? Like you know he's a top tier talent. And if he's not, you can just get rid of him.
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna fault you for dumping the 20th pick in the draft. The top 5 pick, that's
Sure.
bad news. But
Sure.
you had other picks in that draft, so why not take a gamble? And it hasn't paid off yet. But even if it doesn't fully pay off, I think right now you could probably get either a late 1st round pick or a pair of seconds for Cam Whitmore, and you can just rebuild value.
Yeah. That's where the Niners tried that with Reuben Foster, who was like a top. They picked 3rd overall that year. 2nd. They had the 2nd pick in that year's draft, and I was like, hey, if they took Reuben Foster 2nd, I wouldn't. Probably not the best use of draft capital, but man, he's that good. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes top 5. Like that was kind of the thought, at least for me. And so to get him 31 overall was like, hey, that's good value. But they weren't at that place yet where they could afford to have the 31st overall pick not
It's
work
not
out
deep
for them.
enough. Yeah.
And he had off-field issues.
All
but,
kinds. Yeah.
Anyways.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You know what I said? It was the top 5 talent that went 31 was what I was trying to convey there.
Yeah.
Okay. Kings Rockets. Alshire suspension.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. The Kings taking on the Houston Rockets at Golden One Center tonight. Big one for the Kings, man. It's the number 2 seed in the West right now, half game out of the number 1 seed. This is the kind of game where if the Kings can go win this one, you play well and win. I can't have play well and lose. I need to play well and win. I'd feel really, really good about the Kings. Like this is one that could erase a couple of bad losses for me.
No, I get that, but what you can't do is what you did last week, where you got a really, really good win in Minnesota, which is one of the tougher places to play in the league.
That's a good point.
And then come back and lay a complete egg against the Portland Trailblazers, and then not be able to figure out a way to put away the San Antonio Spurs.
That's a good point.
So I'm with you. It would show progress, and it would show that you have some resiliency, especially a team that like handled you easily last year. Went 3-0 against you.
Is handling everybody right now.
Oh no, they're a team on the rise, man. They're playing really, really well. But like this is a league. You got to go out there, and when you make mistakes, when you have a bad couple of games against teams that you should have beat, that's when you got to step up. You got to erase a bad loss with a big win. And so, yeah, I don't know that I buy the Vegas line on this game, but
Kings favored by 1.5.
But Kyle, this is one of those games where you got to have it. 4-7 at home.
Yeah.
That's just
Desperation
that's
time, man.
crazy.
Let's take a look at starting lineups for the Kings. We know what it's going to be. Malik Monk is going to stay in the starting lineup alongside De'Aaron Fox. DeMar DeRozan be in the starting lineup. Keegan Murray's still there. Domantas Sabonis still there. It's the Kings' best 5.
That's right.
The question is, then what?
What do you got after that?
Yeah, we'll dive into that. Rocket starters, Fred VanVleet. At least we're assuming it'll be Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Şengün. Also, a really good starting 5.
A very good starting 5. And then when we talk about where we don't know what the Kings have coming off the bench, that's where this Rockets team with Tari Eason and they just have so much depth. They come at you in waves. Amen Thompson coming off the bench. This is a really, really deep and talented team.
They are defensively nightmares, dude.
Oh,
Tari
yeah.
Eason and Amen Thompson. They just like that's the thing with the Rockets is you can look and go, man, they have a lot of really good. Alperen Şengün, really talented offensive player. Jalen Green, really talented offensive player. Jabari Smith, like a stretch for. Their defense is what jumps out to me. They are just so active on that end, and their athleticism just jumps off the screen.
They got 7 guys averaging in double figures, and of those 7, everyone has played 21 games except for Fred VanVleet, who's only played 20.
Good God, man.
So they've played every game. So it's a group of young guys that, it doesn't matter who's hot, you're going to feed the hot hand. They take a lot of threes. They're very, very deep and talented team.
They are Basketball Reference has them number 17 in offensive rating, but they are number 2 in defensive rating. Their 8.1 net rating is 5th behind Boston, Oklahoma City, Cleveland, Memphis.
Yeah,
really good team.
They're currently holding their opponents to just 106.3 points per game.
Man.
Yeah, 3rd in the NBA. It's good stuff.
That's insane, man. What a really good team. You mentioned not knowing who you mentioned earlier, like in Brooklyn or against Brooklyn, Dennis Schroeder sat out.
Yeah.
Who was the other one?
Scoot Henderson didn't play in the Portland game.
Yeah, and they weren't necessarily on the injury report. So the injury report for the Kings, Kevin Huerter is questionable with an ankle injury.
Yep.
Trey Lyles and Devin Carter are both out. Trey Lyles has a calf. Devin Carter still working through the shoulder. For the Rockets, nothing.
They got a couple of guys at the G League level.
Yeah, at least for now, nothing.
Yeah.
We'll see once the game starts.
Kevin Huerter, just so people know, he did go through, it was a non-contact practice yesterday, but he was a full participant in practice. So it looks like he might have escaped without a major ankle sprain. And so there's a good chance he plays today. That questionable is 50-50, but usually when someone's questionable the day before, there is some hope that he will play.
Okay.
And so I would not be surprised to see Kevin Huerter on the court.
Right. Let's get to a keys to victory. 3 keys from each of us on how the Kings can go out and knock off the Houston Rockets tonight at Golden One Center. James Ham, your first key.
Feed Keegan. Like, look, this kid is struggling. He could use a big game. He's a very valuable player for you, and specifically against this team, I think he can actually have a really, really good night, despite the fact that they have tons of length and athleticism. So I would say get Keegan some open looks early. Try to build his confidence. Try to get that 3-ball falling, because this team will not take off unless Keegan Murray starts to have big performances.
Yep. That is what it comes down to. If Keegan Murray starts knocking down threes and he starts averaging 15, 16 points a night, you feel so much differently about what the Kings are.
That's right.
And you just got to start making threes. You're getting smoked at the 3-point line every night.
Yep.
That Keegan's going to play a big role in that for sure. Number 1 for me, what we talked about, defensive communication. Just talk, yap at each other.
Yep.
If that's really what it is, if the Kings are missing these defensive rotations because they're not talking, well then start. It takes no skill to go,
Tonight, if you don't talk,
run that play.
They're going to dunk on you again and again and again. This is such an athletic team.
Yep.
Like
with a really good passing big in Alperen Şengün.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Number 2 for me. Match their physicality. because the Kings have trouble with length and athleticism, but the teams that they really struggle with length, athleticism, and physicality. And this is a physical team. Emi Udoka has his team playing extremely hard. And like, look, if you're not gonna show up and you're not gonna match or beat their physicality level, you're going to lose.
That's it. That's it.
Straight up.
You're probably going to lose by a lot.
Yeah.
And that's, man, it's my biggest concern tonight is we get a lot of those plays where Kings players are standing there looking at the official with their palms in the sky while the Rockets are going down on a 3-on-1 fast break.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
that's
concerned about tonight.
The other concern I would have is that Domantas Sabonis will get in foul trouble against Alperen Şengün. Şengün is so crafty. Like he's one of the few crafty big men left in the league. And, you know, his stats are they're better than Domas, right? 21.9 points, 12 point. Oh, no, that's per 36. My bad.
I was about to say, oh my God. It's probably not far off of that, though. I think he's playing 34 minutes a night.
Yeah, 18.8 points, 10.9 rebounds, 5.3 assists, 1.1 steals, 1.2 blocks.
Yeah.
He is so crafty.
And he can draw fouls without trying to draw fouls.
He tries to draw a lot of fouls, though.
He does. But he also tries to make baskets.
He's got a spin move on a spin move on a spin move.
Yeah, for sure. Number 2 for me goes to what your first key was. You got to stop trading 2 for 3. This isn't analytics. This is math.
Yeah.
If you're going to be bad at defending the 3-pointer, you can't answer that with 2 points. That is -1 point. You're welcome.
There it is.
I know it sounds so rudimentary, but that's it's got to stop at some point if you want to start winning games. Number 3.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And then I would also tell you that this is not a good 3-point shooting team. They shoot 33% from 3. They're 26 in the NBA in 3-point shooting. The Houston Rockets. Don't let them look like every other team that walks into Golden One.
Yeah.
Here's my final key. No more excuses. Just go out there and beat somebody.
Yep.
Just stop. Beat somebody.
Yeah. I don't. That's what it comes down to, man. There's the injury stuff. There's, oh, man, we're tired. No, well, it's the league. Go win. You still have a lot of good players.
Yep.
If the Kings had bad players, I wouldn't be like, you got to go get a win tonight. No. You got the players to do it.
Yeah. Your starting 5 is probably a top 3 in the NBA right now.
Still. Yeah. Really, really good lineup.
Yeah.
So go win it. Last one for me. It's Isaac Jones season, baby.
Yes.
We were talking earlier. What do the Kings have on their bench? Isaac Jones. What do you got, big fella?
Period.
I would love, and that's it. 6th man of the year candidate, Isaac Jones. No, I've liked what I've seen so far. I think he's earned more opportunities, and this will be really interesting. He's a good, young, athletic team. How does he match up?
Well, that and their forwards they're long, athletic, but they're not that big. And Isaac Jones is a big dude.
Yep.
So like they're 6'8", but this is a guy who has broad shoulders, and you know he should be able to muscle his way. So I want to see more Isaac Jones. I want to see more of the putback dunks. I want to see him and Malik Monk start to build some chemistry and start getting the alley-oop game going.
Yep, definitely. Real quick, matchup of the game.
Sabonis versus Şengün.
Yeah.
Şengün is so
Very good
good.
one.
He really is. He's so good.
Yeah. Mine is Kings versus 3-point line. Can you win the 3-point line?
Oh, it's a good one.
Can you do it? That's what I'm watching for tonight. That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. The Kings take on the Rockets tonight, but we also have NBA Cup action for you right here on ESPN 1320. The Golden State Warriors are taking on the Denver Nuggets. Coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. right here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader. Have you followed the MLB Golden at Bat rule at all?
No.
Rob Manfred comes out yesterday.
Oh, no.
And says there's buzz at the owners' meetings about this Golden at Bat rule, which is a rule where 1 time per game, you can select a hitter, whether it's his spot in the lineup or not, to come to the plate. So you can just...
I hate Rob Manfred.
It is just...
I don't like to say I hate anyone. I hate Rob Manfred.
Can you imagine if Adam Silver was like, yeah, hey, we're trying this golden shot rule where at any point in the game, you can just stop play and hand the ball to your best shooter, and he gets a above the break 3.
Steph Curry, 3-point.
Yeah, just anytime you need it, you just get to stop play and Here, okay, here, you get to go do that.
Oh, look, we're down with 1.2 seconds remaining. Shaq, dunk.
It's asinine, dude.
Golden.
I didn't mind the bigger bases. I don't mind the pitch clock. I don't mind the 3-batter minimum. Okay, yeah, it changes the strategy a little bit. I didn't love the taking away the shift, but you know what? Okay, it's fine. I get how that fits within the game. Fine. The golden at bat thing is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Leave that in banana ball.
That is wild.
Just horrible.
He must be trying to sneak in some other crazy rule, like he'll let
Yeah.
the A's move without having to pay relocation
Well,
fees.
they've already done that.
And then he'll just go, wait, okay, I am willing to concede the golden bat rule if you allow the A's to move without relocation fees.
They've already done it, though.
Oh, I know.
It feels like he's floating this as like, hey, what's the response to this? Okay, good to know.
Crowdsourcing this.
I think he's a wrestling fan because this feels like a wrestling gimmick, right?
Yes, that is exactly what it feels like.
This 100% feels like professional wrestling.
Yes, and I hate it so much.
Sorry, guys, I was bored, so I came in early.
No, that's okay.
Just sitting out there, like I'm gonna go hang out with the insiders.
You can come in anytime.
Thanks.
Like literally whenever.
Thanks.
Just pop in.
Did
Be
you
here
see our new
tomorrow at
hoodies?
10. I did see those. I saw those on the stream. I was like, hey, now
Yeah.
those are nice.
Yeah, big
Very
fan.
nice.
Big fan. Interesting game for the Kings tonight.
That's one word for it.
Did you know they are favored by 1.5?
That's ridiculous.
That's exactly what Vegas wants you to think. That's why I think
ridiculous.
they're going to win.
That's absurd. Like the Rockets, James, correct me, just beat the Kings' ass over the last handful of years.
Okay.
Last year, 3-0.
Yeah,
That's
I
fine.
mean the Rockets are actually really good, and
They're
think
awesome.
I think they have all of the characteristics that I think are worst for this current version of the Kings team.
They're
They're-
loaded with players that the Kings need.
Well, they're tough. Like they have a tough-minded coach. The players kind of fit that mentality, and like I'm not talking like a blow. I could see the Kings getting pushed around though a lot tonight. I hate this game for Sacramento.
I do too.
Absolutely hate it. The only thing I hope is that I don't know. I keep hoping for them to like snap out of it, but
Yeah.
I feel like I've been hoping for that for a while.
Yeah.
Been bamboozled before. I think the one good thing that the Kings have going for them is I hate even bringing it up is that the Rockets aren't a good 3-point shooting team. They're
Well,
26 in the league.
Blame
at
it on
33%.
James when they hit 22 threes tonight.
They average 11.8 threes per game. Makes.
Wow.
Over or under 13.5 made threes for the Rockets
Over.
tonight.
Over.
More.
Okay. More.
Well, that's
more.
15 times this season out of 21. The Kings have allowed their opponents to make 14 or more threes.
Oh my God.
Well, credit to Morgan, the San Antonio Spurs sat. Morgan Reagan said on the
Oh, yeah.
podcast, the Spurs have hit 20 plus threes twice this season, and that's it. Does anyone guess the 2 games that they hit
Oh,
20 plus threes?
Franchise record 22, followed by a franchise record 23.
That's
I can't wait till
embarrassing.
Friday.
That's so tough.
I can't wait till Friday when they hit 24. We're live at Sky River Casino. Come watch the San Antonio Spurs break their franchise record for threes. Sky River Casino.
Is
See
that
it on
where- is that
70
where-
TV screens.
So we're pitching it.
It's almost like they bring in Guinness. Hey,
Yeah,
we got a world record happening.
Yeah,
We're going
yeah.
for the world record tonight.
See it on 70 TV screens.
Well, we
as
get it.
Throwback music plays from the patio of 32 Brew Street. This Friday, December 6th, Sky River Casino, beginning at 12. Yeah.
Also, are you smarter than Kevin and all that stuff?
No. Hey, Kevin, how many times have the Spurs hit 23s this year?
I would love to ask Kevin that.
Kevin would have no clue
Sports
what
trivia with
language you're
Kevin?
speaking. Oh, that
That's
would
fine.
be amazing.
I would love that.
Oh, sports trivia with Kevin would be amazing.
We might make that a segment.
Listening to him describe a movie that he doesn't necessarily understand
Oh,
is bordering on magical.
so funny.
Listening to him describe Wicked yesterday morning was so good.
Oh,
Terrific.
We need to have a sports trivia with Kevin and with Complex.
Oh my
oh.
God.
My favorite thing is,
That'd be
is
amazing.
Complex is one of the nicest humans I've ever met.
Ever.
And my favorite thing is I'll just be sitting there just minding my own business and he'll just walk up and go, so the sports, huh?
Yeah.
Indeed,
Yeah.
Complex.
My
Yeah,
favorite
sports.
is when he's standing right in the middle of a whole group of people talking, but he's not talking to anyone. He's
Oh,
talking
yeah,
to
he
someone
did.
on his earbuds.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that happens regularly.
The worst part is he'll acknowledge you with the
Yeah.
with his earbuds in, and he'll be like, "What's up, Complex?" And he'll go, "Oh, hey, what's up, man? How are you?" I'm good. And then he'll just start yapping, and he'll turn and he'll be like, "Oh no, I'm
No,
but you acknowledged me.
no.
You told me you weren't on the phone by acknowledging
No,
me.
we have a long running gag where it's like I'll go in, I'll run back to the office before the show starts. Hey, Complex, hey, we've got so and so coming in today. Like, you go with this, go with this, go with this. Yeah, all right, cool. 5 minutes later, I'll get a text from like Katie. Hey, when is so and so getting there? And did you get this done and get this done? Like, how did you know about all of that? Well, I was on the phone with Complex when you walked in and told him all of that stuff. And Complex just stopped talking to me and started talking to you. And I think everyone who talks to Complex on the phone knows the likelihood of him starting another conversation in the middle of your conversation is very likely.
Next time I need to talk to Complex, I'm just going to call him. I'll be in the office. I'm just going to call him.
And then that way he'll cut off the conversation with the person in his office.
Exactly.
And have the conversation with you.
That's the move. Can I pay off this Azeez Al-Shire tease real quick before we get out of here?
Yeah.
Azeez Al-Shire was suspended for 3 games for trying to take Trevor Lawrence's head off. That's fine. I don't hate the suspension. It's probably the right thing to do. Here's my problem with it. The NFL VP of football ops is a guy named John Runyon. Here's what John Runyon's statement said, according to Ian Rappaport of NFL Media. Your lack of sportsmanship and respect for the game of football and all those who play, coach, and enjoy watching it is troubling and does not reflect the core values of the NFL. Okay? All right. That's fair. That's the NFL doing its thing. Here's the problem. Another quote from John Runyon. This is in 2006 when former Chargers defensive end Sean Merriman called him the dirtiest player in the league. Quote, that's the way the game's supposed to be played. I think they've tried to change that over the years. It's turned into a basketball game out there.
Oh, dear.
That's the guy that the NFL is now using as the face of their, hey, player safety. We don't want this in the league. That's their guy.
Yeah, it's tough. The NFL doesn't care about that stuff.
Right. And I wish they would just, like, you're not going to, everybody knows you're lying to nobody. Everybody knows that this is all fake.
You know what I'd be fascinated to know is what Al-Shire's suspension would have been if the melee hadn't broken out.
That's a good
because
question.
I mean the hit to me, I saw it on Red Zone.
Hit.
Yeah, that was 100% multi-game suspension worthy in my estimation.
I thought the rest of the season.
Yeah, I wondered. Yeah, I wondered. I was like, this is bad, and the reaction is. I feel like it's amplifying it. It's making it worse. But had Trevor Lawrence stayed down, had it just kind of been a normal play, bad hit, you get tossed. D'Amico sends him out. I wonder if the suspension would have been the same. Because I genuinely don't know the answer to that.
I think it probably would have. That was a bad hit.
I think so. No, it was bad.
To the golden boy, Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, it was bad. And then, of course, Trevor hitting his head on the, on the turf and the, that terrifying reaction. It was bad on all fronts. But, yeah, to pretend that the NFL cares about player safety.
It's so dumb.
It's a joke.
They threw Branch out of a game like 2 weeks earlier, the safety for the Lions.
Yeah.
For almost hitting a sliding quarterback like that.
Yeah.
Almost. Did not hit him.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
there's probably some things they need to figure out with sliding quarterbacks and all of that stuff. But not last night, the Houston Jackson, that's not the play to use as the example. There's plays out there that you can use. Like if I'm a defender, how am I supposed to deal with this? We watched, Kenny and I don't see it the same way, but we watched that play in slow motion over and over. That's not the play, in my opinion.
No, definitely not. D'Lo and KC coming up next. Are going to be rocking with you until 4. Want to remind you we have Warriors Nuggets tonight, 6:30 p.m. right here on ESPN 1320. Got some NBA Cup action for you.
Struggling Warriors?
Yeah, they're scuffling. They're scuffling for sure. No Steph Curry tonight. Is that right?
Okay.
Somebody's out tonight. No Draymond, maybe? Somebody's out tonight.
Those aren't the same thing. So
no,
someone's research that and figure out
someone's out tonight. I don't know, but it's NBA Cup right here.
Klay Thompson's out tonight. He is not playing in this game.
Draymond Green is questionable.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Oh, he's
Steph
always
Curry's probable.
questionable, to be fair.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I'm fine.
All right.
Thank you.
That's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insiders. We're back at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Until then, drink water. Be nice, people. Boo!